Hey, everybody, and welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Life After a Cult, the channel where we expose cult nonsense. We laugh at the absurdities, and we hopefully unbrainwash ourselves in the process. What if I told you the deadliest self-help scam in history is not a Netflix documentary? It is still alive, suing people, selling fake therapy, and dragging Bart Simpson along for the ride. Today, we are going deep inside this billion-dollar cult empire known as Scientology, where grief is monetized, celebrities are weaponized, and questions, well, I don't know, that'll get you labeled as an enemy and thrown out of the galaxy if they had their way. Because we know Scientology isn't just some religion, it's a hostile takeover of reality, mainly your reality if you get trapped in that web. And there is no refund policy. Actually, there is a refund policy, but they don't follow it, which is kind of the funny thing about it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, moderators, for being here. And everybody in the chat, in the live chat, thank you for being here. On the replay, I am happy to see you too. Everybody hit that like button. Let's do housekeeping. Let's get out lots of notifications. I have been dying to get into this, and it does take a whole video. Some of you may have heard some of what we're going to go over. Some of you may have never heard it. And this video, I mean, what we're going to talk about it, I think it's going to make your jaw drop for sure. Your eyebrows will raise, and there will be a third eye roll. It's like there's so much eye rolling that we're all going to need our third eye to eye roll at this thing. Because as you know, Scientology doesn't just target the vulnerable, right? It preys on the curious. And the best way to fight back, share the truth louder than they can share their BS. And I thought, you know what? I was talking to myself. I was like, Natalie, I was like, what, girl? I'm like, you need to do a video about the thriving cult of greed. The article that was in Time magazine. This thing was huge. So if you have questions, put Q in front of it, and Nancy will star as much as we can. I'm going to jump into this. I've been dying to go through this. Ooh, does that rhyme? I'm going to jump into this. It's time. No, it doesn't really rhyme. It's the same word. Okay, whoop, squirrel. I'm getting all ADHD out about this right off the bat. Mock, hello, everybody. I'm so happy seeing y'all come in. Christy and Anna and MS. Tanya, happy birthday, girl. Didn't you just celebrate a birthday? I thought I saw something that you were in town in Clearwater. All right, y'all ready? Let's get into this thing here because it is creepy. So let me show you. Hold on. How do I want to do this? I will pull it up, but I'm going to pull it up small. I mean, unless you guys want me to have it big on the screen like this, so one. Oh, wait, that's not even two. We can do it this way. We can do it this way, or where is that other option? I'll move my buttons around, Nancy, and I'm confused again. There we go. I think we'll do it like this. If you guys want me to make it bigger, let me know. But it's a bunch of print on a page, so I don't know how much you want to look at that. You can look at me. I'm much more pleasant. All right, so I'm going to read this. By all appearances, Noah Lottick of Kingston, Pennsylvania, had been a normal, happy 24-year-old who was looking for his place in the world. On the day last June, when his parents drove to New York City to claim his body, they were nearly catatonic with grief. The young Russian studies scholar had jumped from a 10th floor window of the Milford Plaza Hotel and bounced off the hood of a stretch limousine. When the police arrived, his fingers were still clutching $171 in cash, virtually the only money he hadn't yet turned over to the Church of Scientology, the self-help philosophy group he had discovered just 7 months earlier. How sad is that right off the bat? 7 months. The guy was in Scientology for 7 months. Took them 7 months. And now it's his parents are claiming his body. Like how ridiculous is that? His death inspired his father, Edward, a physician, to start his own investigation of the church. We thought Scientology was something like Dale Carnegie, Lottick says. I now believe it's a school for psychopaths. Their so-called therapies are manipulations. They take the best and brightest people and destroy them. The Lotticks want to sue the church for contributing to their son's death, but the prospect has them frightened. For nearly 40 years, the big business Scientology has shielded itself exquisitely behind the First Amendment, as well as a battery of high-priced criminal lawyers and shady private investigators. And shady they were. And again, this is the Cult of Greed article on the thumbnail. I had the cover of the magazine when it was first in there. This was huge and very applicable today, and you're going to find out why. The Church of Scientology, started by science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard to clear people of unhappiness, portrays itself as a religion. In reality, the church is a huge, profitable global racket that survives by intimidating members and critics in a mafia-like manner. At times, during the past decade, prosecutions against Scientology seem to be curbing its menace. 11 top Scientologists, including Hubbard's wife, were sent to prison in the early 1980s for infiltrating, burglarizing, and wiretapping more than 100 private and government agencies in attempts to block their investigations. In recent years, hundreds of longtime Scientology adherents, many charging that they were mentally or physically abused, have quit the church and criticized it at their own risk. Some have sued the church and won. Others have settled for amounts in excess of $500,000. In various cases, judges have labeled the church schizophrenic and paranoid, and corrupt, sinister, and dangerous. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing. Can you imagine belonging to a church like that? I can. But at the time, we didn't know this. What I'm sharing with you, I did not read this until I had left Scientology. So many Scientologists never learn of this until they leave and they're able to, learn more about it and read articles like this. Yet the outrage and litigation have failed to squelch Scientology. The group, which boasts 700 centers in 65 countries, threatens to become more insidious and pervasive than ever. Scientology is trying to go mainstream, a strategy that has sparked a renewed law enforcement campaign against the church. Many of the group's followers have been accused of committing financial scams, while the church is busy attracting the unwary through a wide array of front groups in such businesses and publishing, consulting, healthcare, and even medical education. Of course they are. We know they're trying to, use their front group, right? Their front group, L. Ron Hubbard's business technology, to get people into Scientology. That's how my former husband was recruited into Scientology as an adult. He's an optometrist, and they got him through that whole, the whole front group, the whole business front group. Yeah, it was crazy. In Hollywood, Scientology has assembled a star-studded roster of followers by aggressively recruiting and regularly pampering them at the church's celebrity centers, a chain of clubhouses that offer expensive counseling and career guidance. Adherents include screen idols Tom Cruise, John Travolta, actress Kirstie Alley. Of course, Kirstie Alley was alive when this was written, so R.I.P. Kirstie Alley. Who else? Mimi Rogers, Tom Cruise's first wife, and Ann Archer, Palm Springs mayor and performer Sonny Bono, jazzman Chick Corea, and even Nancy Cartwright, the voice of cartoon star Bart Simpson. Rank and file members, however, are dealt a less glamorous Scientology. When we talk about that a lot on the channel here too, how public Scientologists have a different experience than staff members. Staff members have a different experience from Sea Org members. And the higher you go up in Scientology, the worse it gets. Whether you're a staff member or you're a public person moving up the levels of their bridge to total freedom, you are stuck on the bridge to total bankruptcy. But the higher up you go, the worse it gets. According to the Cult Awareness Network, whose 23 chapters monitor more than 200 mind control cults. Okay, now this, you can tell this was written back in the day because Cult Awareness Network ended up being bought by Scientology. Scientology brought all these suits, had people infiltrate and literally took over the Cult Awareness Network. So when you called, is somebody I love in a cult? You get Scientology. You actually get a cult. I don't know that they're still doing that today, but Scientology did buy it and was running it at one point. No group prompts more telephone pleas for help than does Scientology, says Cynthia Kisser, the network's Chicago-based executive director. So again, this was the Cult Awareness Network that Scientology then dismantled by suing them a ton, planting people there, and then buying it, I think in bankruptcy court, the name or the assets in it. I don't know that it's active today, but this was back in the day. And isn't that interesting? Because she said no groups. There's not another group that would cause more calls to the Cult Awareness Network than people Scientology adjacent. I think that says a lot there too. Of all the cults in the world, the one they hear the most from are people trying to recover from Scientology. Scientology is quite likely the most ruthless, the most classically terroristic, the most litigious, and the most lucrative cult the country has ever seen. No cult extracts more money from its members, agrees Vicky Asneran, who was one of Scientology's 6 key leaders until she bolted from the church in 1987. This is a criminal organization day in, day out. It makes Jim and Tammy Baker look like kindergarten. Wow. And that was a quote too. That is interesting. And Vicky Asneran, back in the day, she worked right with David Miscavige. She worked with Jesse Prince. And of course, ended up leaving Scientology. Ooh, Sardinia. We got someone from Sardinia. That's cool. Sardusiu. However you say it, welcome. Thank you for being here. How cool. I love seeing where people are from. To explore Scientology reach, Time magazine, conducted more than 150 interviews and reviewed hundreds of court records and internal Scientology documents. Church officials refused to be interviewed. The investigation paints a picture of a depraved yet thriving enterprise. Most cults fail to outlast their founder, but Scientology has prospered, I don't know about that, since Hubbard's death in 1986. I mean, I guess technically they have prospered financially. We do know that. The Church of Spiritual Technology listed $503 million in income just for 1987. Wow. Church of Spiritual Technology, you guys have heard it called CST. It's the part of Scientology that's responsible for putting all of those underground bunkers together with the vaults. Reintegrated Audi. What is Vicky Asneran up to today? I don't know, but I would love to know. I would love to know, and I would love to talk to her. So Vicky Asneran, if you're still with us and you're out there and you hear this, or someone who knows her, I would love to speak with her and have her on my channel. Natalie at lifeafteraccult.com is my email. So if anybody knows how to reach her, let me know. Let's see. Oh, Nisa's got a comment here. Even though they're supposed to keep secret, they're bad at that because they keep leaving a calling card. It's so true. They're so bad at it. All right, moving on here. In a court filing, one of the cult's many entities, the Church of Spiritual Technology, listed $503 million in income just for 1987. High-level defectors say the parent organization has squirreled away an estimated $400 million in bank accounts in Liechtenstein, Switzerland, and Cyprus. Scientology probably has about 50,000 active members, far fewer than the 8 million the group claims. But in one sense, that inflated figure rings true. Millions of people have been affected in one way or another by Hubbard's bizarre creation. Yeah, and again, this was back in the day, so I'm sure it's more like billions instead of the millions now. Because this came out, I think it was, what was it, like 1991. Scientology is now run by David Miscavige, a high school dropout and second-generation church member. Defectors describe him as cunning, ruthless, and so paranoid about perceived enemies that he kept plastic wrap over his glass of water. His obsession is to attain credibility for Scientology in the 90s, among other tactics. Well, we're going to read that, but we're going to stop here, though. He put plastic wrap over his water because he was so paranoid about perceived enemies. Oh my gosh. I mean, crazy much. I don't even like in your where are you anyways? Are you like at a Sea Org base at lunch with everybody and you're covering your drink? You know, was Danny Masterson at your table? Is that why you were concerned, David Miscavige? Who does that? I get Are you eating outside and there's bugs and flies and bees and you want to cover it? But the more we learn about David Miscavige, the more we learn about his paranoia. This is something time and time again that just keeps coming up. Hey, Scientology up north and Amber. It just keeps coming up. Yeah, Anna, David Miscavige thinks highly of himself, and it really does show. So his obsession is to obtain credibility for Scientology in the 90s, which now we're looking at this later. And I would say, fail, David Miscavige, you failed. Among other tactics, the group retained public relations powerhouse Hill and Knowlton to help shed the church's fringe group image. Again, fail. Joined such household names as Sony and Pepsi as a main sponsor of Ted Turner's Goodwill Games. I do remember they did something like that. Buys massive quantities of its own books from retail stores to propel titles onto bestseller lists. And this is true. This is something we found out again after everybody left Scientology and they were like, "Oh, you know how we got all those books on the bestsellers list? We bought them." We bought them ourselves. Scientology went and bought L. Ron Hubbard's own books to drive up the sales to get it on the bestsellers list so they could turn around and use that as some form of legitimacy, legitimizing them in their eyes. Scientology up north says, that sounds like something similar to Vladimir Putin having an assistant taste all his food before eating. True. I know. I'm like, that's how paranoid he is. He doesn't even trust his own people, which makes sense because we see the world as we are, right? Not necessarily as the world is. And if he is a paranoid individual trying to hurt people and take them down, then of course he's going to see ghosts and potential harm coming out of every corner and be paranoid about it. What a waste of time. It's not like he was paranoid for some other reason. You know, it's not like he got into some gummies and had a good time, but then suddenly was like, oh my gosh, body things are coming to attack me. Where are my copper wires? Shelley, get the copper wires, Shelley. No, that's all he can do. So the paranoia, it continues on. No one, good to see you, my friend. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so this is what else they did. Runs full-page ads in such publications as Newsweek and Businessweek that call Scientology a philosophy, along with a plethora of TV ads touting the group's books. Recruits wealthy and respectable professionals through a web of consulting groups that typically hide their ties to Scientology. Exactly. Scientology front groups. WISE. They are consultants who use L. Ron Hubbard's business technology. They go into businesses, and a lot of times, especially this is why they're so big with chiropractors, is a lot of times you're good at what you do as a chiropractor, but you might not have the business sense, and that's where they come in. And then they start getting up in your business, not just your business, but literally like your life. How you getting along with your wife, to find more of a ruin to then get the person to come in and actually do more Scientology. I don't know if David Miscavige had a food tester, Kathleen. He must have a food tester, don't you think? I wouldn't put it past, but I don't know. But that level of paranoia, I mean, let's just be honest, it's never healthy. It just isn't. So recruits wealthy and respectable professionals through a web of consulting groups. Okay, we did that one. The founder of this enterprise was part storyteller, part flim-flam man, born in Nebraska in 1911. Shout out to Nebraska. I'd like to say Nebraska is more well-known for, I think they have a location, Hormel there, where they make Spam in addition to making it in Minnesota. And I prefer to think of Nebraska for that, not as the birthplace, as the psychopath known as L. Ron Hubbard. Hubbard served in the Navy during World War II and soon afterward complained to the Veterans Administration about his, quote, suicidal inclinations and his, quote, seriously affected mind. Nevertheless, Hubbard was a moderately successful writer of pulp fiction. Years later, church brochures described him falsely as an extensively decorated World War II hero who was crippled and blinded in action, twice pronounced dead, and miraculously cured through Scientology. Hubbard's doctorate from Sequoia University was a fake mail-in order degree in a 1984 case in which the church sued a Hubbard biographical researcher. A California judge concluded that its founder, it was a, quote, pathological liar. Isn't this amazing? This was back in the day. Judges knew he was a pathological liar, yet somehow they go on to get tax exempt from the IRS. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that works, you guys. Scientology up north says tea or cooks do have good access to bleach and ammonia. Yeah, no kidding. Hubbard wrote one of Scientology's sacred texts, Dianetics, the modern science of mental health. In 1950, in it, he introduced a crude psychotherapeutic technique he called auditing. He also created a simplified lie detector called an e-meter that was designed to measure electrical charges in the skin while subjects discuss intimate details of their past. Hubbard argued that unhappiness sprang from mental aberrations or engrams caused by early traumas. Counseling sessions with an e-meter, he claimed, could knock out the engrams, cure blindness, and even improve a person's intelligence and appearance. Yet, I don't think we've ever seen this done. As someone, when you achieve the state of clear per L. Ron Hubbard in Dianetics, you have perfect memory, perfect recall. You are unaberrated, as they say in Scientology. I did not find this to be the case after I attested to the state of clear, which is when you realize, like, oh, wait a minute, man, you know what? Oh, man, I've been creating my own reactive mind. Ah, dang, I've been doing it the whole time. Well, you know what? I'm just going to stop doing it. Boom, clear. Ridiculous. I didn't even know that when I attested to Claire, because I don't know what I said that got me a golden ticket to be able to attest to I didn't know at the time what I said that got me the golden ticket to be able to attest to the state of clear. But we now know I said something very close to what I just told you, which is known as the clear cognition. Save you tons of money in Scientology. You just got to say, oh, you know what? I think I've been creating my own reactive mind and I'm just going to stop doing it. Yeah, I'm going to give it up. I'm going to quit, like smoking or drinking or whatever other vice you're giving up. I'm just going to stop mocking up my reactive mind. I don't know why I started in the first place. Maybe I was bored. I don't know. It started in the first place because L. Ron Hubbard told us we had a reactive mind in Dianetics. Then people spend all this money and all this time, only you realize later, like, wait a minute, I don't have a reactive mind. You told me. You made me pay to get rid of the reactive mind, only to realize I'm the one creating it. And I could have stopped at any time. What kind of Dorothy with the ruby slippers, you could have always gone home anytime you want, is that? It's a ripoff is what it is. It's how Scientology makes their money. Let's see. Okay, so back to this here. Hubbard kept adding steps, each more costly for his followers to climb. In the 1960s, the guru decreed that humans are made of clusters of spirits or thetans who were banished to Earth some 75 million years ago by a cruel galactic ruler named Xenu. Naturally, those thetans had to be audited. An Internal Revenue Service ruling in 1967 stripped Scientology's mother church of its tax-exempt status. I don't know if all of you knew that. Scientology was stripped of their tax-exempt status once before, which means it can happen again. That's what I believe. Reintegrated Audi says, actually, the e-meter was created by a Los Angeles chiropractor, Volney Matheson. Hubbard bought the rights to it. Interesting. I have heard that before. A federal court ruled in 1971 that Hubbard's medical claims were bogus and that e-meter auditing could no longer be called a scientific treatment. Hubbard responded by going full religious. Can you imagine? They tell L. Ron Hubbard, like, look, Ron, look. Your Dianetics, your science of the mind, not so heavy on the science. You're out. That, of course, made him super pissed off. He was massively butthurt about it. And ever since then, he was against psychiatry because how dare they? How dare they? Let's see. His counselors, Hubbard responded by going fully religious, seeking First Amendment protection for Scientology's strange rites. His counselors started sporting clerical collars. Chapels were built. Franchises became missions. Fees became fixed donations. And Hubbard's comic book cosmology became sacred scripture. So they totally just rebranded all of this to be a religion, especially when he wasn't going to get any love from the psychs. He was trying to get love from the psychs with Dianetics, and they were like, no, you're crazy. And then Elvin Hubbard just was like, oh, I'm going to take my toys and go home. I'm going to tell everybody that psychiatry is evil. You guys started the Holocaust. It's about when that whole thing started with him. So during the early 1970s, the IRS conducted its own auditing session and proved that Hubbard was skimming millions of dollars from the church, laundering the money through dummy corporations in Panama and stashing it in Swiss bank accounts. Moreover, church members stole IRS documents, filed false tax returns, and harassed the agency's employees. By late 1985, with high-level defectors accusing Hubbard of having stolen as much as $200 million from the church, the IRS was seeking an indictment of Hubbard for tax fraud. Scientology members worked day and night shredding documents. The IRS sought, according to defector Asdaram, who took part in the scheme. Hubbard, who had been hiding for 5 years, died before the criminal case could be prosecuted. And let's not forget, too, y'all remember when my sister Lana came on and she shared her story of when she was a teenager in the Sea Org and they had her shredding documents and then burning them. It was a shred and burn party when they were working on trying to get this tax exempt status. I'm telling you, it's so criminal. Today, the church invents costly news services with all the zeal of its founder. Scientology doctrine warns that even adherents who are cleared of engrams face grave spiritual danger unless they are pushed to higher and more expensive levels. According to the church's latest price list, recruits, quote, raw meat, because let's not forget, Scientology calls their people raw meat. That's what they actually call it. That's not my word. That's theirs. Raw meat. Go out and let's recruit some raw meat. Let's get some raw meat in for some personality tests. They say it like nothing. Scientology doctrine warns that even adherents who are cleared of engrams face grave spiritual dangers. So they push them up to higher levels and more expensive levels. According to the church's latest price list, recruits raw meat, as Hubbard called them, take auditing sessions that cost as much as $1,000 an hour or $12,500 for a 12.5-hour intensive, as it's called. $1,000 an hour. I can think of so many more things that I would rather do if I was spending $1,000 an hour than sitting there holding on to e-meter cans, trying to exercise my space cooties. I mean, my gosh. I mean, that's a lot of money. Think of the vacation you could take. You buy 12.5 hours of auditing. Back in the day, it was, did they give a total for that? I probably just said it and I already forgot. $12,500. Think about what you spend in therapy, right? Is there a therapist that charges $1,000 an hour? For $1,000 an hour, you should not just be giving me therapy. I should be getting a back rub and you should be cleaning my house, doing my taxes, and getting caught up on other chores for me for $1,000 an hour. But in Scientology, and keep in mind, a lot of the people who deliver Scientology auditing, in fact, all of them in the upper levels are members of the Sea organization. So Scientology public members are spending tens of thousands of dollars. The people who are actually delivering the Scientology services and keeping the organizations running, themselves are walking away with $47 a week if they're lucky. Yet public are paying $12,500 for 12.5 hours of auditing. And let's not, who else went on to use this intensive Scientology, way of doing businesses? Keith Raniere from NXIVM. He sold things in 12.5 hour increments, in intensives. Use the words intensives. Hey, Queen of Karma, good to see you. Oh, girl, I hope you're feeling better. I'm glad you're here. Yes, Geoplane Janet, the space cooties. So psychiatrists say these sessions can produce a drug-like mind-controlled euphoria that keeps customers coming back for more. To pay their fees, newcomers can earn commissions by recruiting new members, become auditors themselves. Miscavige did so at the age of 12, or join the church staff and receive free counseling in exchange for what their written contracts describe as billion years of labor. Make sure that lots of bodies move through the shop, implored Hubbard in one of his bulletins to officials. Make money, make more money, make others produce so as to make money. However you get them in or why, just do it. That is from L. Ron Hubbard. That's L. Ron Hubbard saying that. So right off the bat, when he started Scientology, which seems like it was in response to the psychiatrist telling him to go, no, get out of here. We're not listening to you. And then he's like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going to go the religion angle because if you want to make a lot of money, a religion is a good way to do it. Itchy Thetans, I would love to interview a ex-member of NXIVM. I need to get onto that. I need to carve out some time to reach out for stuff like that. But so keep those recommendations coming, you guys. I love it. So now going back to this article. Make money, make more money, make others produce it to make more money. However you get them in or why, just do it. That is a quote from L. Ron Hubbard. And remember, talking about his church, Scientology. Let's start this church. It's just making money. You're just going to make money, make more money, then make more money on top of that. Harriet Baker learned the hard way about Scientology's business of selling religion. When Baker, 73, lost her husband to cancer, a Scientologist turned up at her Los Angeles home, peddling a $1,300 auditing package to cure her grief. Okay, I think it goes without saying that this pisses me off because what they basically do is a loss of person assist. Look around here and find something that doesn't remind you of blank. Complete BS. It just makes you compartmentalize and feel like you shouldn't be expressing those emotions or that those emotions are negative and you need to hide them away, which is no way of healing, as we all know. That's not how you heal. You need to experience the emotions and let them go. But you have to be able to process it. So they're trying to sell this poor woman $1,300 auditing package to cure her grief. Some $15,000 later, the Scientologist discovered that her house was debt-free. They arranged a $45,000 mortgage, which they pressured her to tap for more auditing until Baker's children helped their mother snap out of her daze. Last June, Baker demanded a $27,000 refund for unused services, prompting 2 cult members to show up at her door unannounced with an e-meter to interrogate her. Baker never got the money and, financially strapped, was forced to sell her house in September. This is something that happens over and over and over in Scientology, you guys. We hear about it all the time. And part of why I wanted to share this article today is because it's still happening today. All of these things that we're talking about are still happening today. Before Noah Lottick killed himself, he had paid more than $5,000 for church counseling. His behavior had also become strange. He once remarked to his parents that his Scientology mentors could actually read minds. I need some electrolytes. Wow. He mentioned to his parents Scientology mentors could actually read minds when his father suffered a major heart attack. Noah insisted that it was purely psychosomatic. 5 days before, he jumped. Noah burst into his parents' home and demanded to know why they were spreading false rumors about him, a delusion that finally prompted his father to call a psychiatrist. And again, we see this happen. Someone gets into Scientology and maybe they have some underlying mental health issues which become aggravated and makes it so much more worse. And then you add Scientology into the mix. And this is what this ends up going south quickly. It was too late. From Noah's friends at Dianetics read the card that accompanied a bouquet of flowers at Lottick's funeral. So from Noah's friends at Dianetics, that's what the card said. So his friends sent flowers from Scientology. Yet no Scientology staff member bothered to show up. A week earlier, local church officials had given Lottick's parents a red carpet tour of their center. A cult leader told Noah's parents that their son had been at the church just hours before he disappeared. But the church denied this story as soon as the body was identified. True to form, the cult even haggled with the Lotticks over $3,000 their son had paid for services he never used, insisting that Noah had intended it as a donation. Wow. So not only did they take from this young man during his life, but then when he's gone, they're still trying to take from his parents. I mean, that is literally what a predator is, what a predator does. It's a predatory practice. And this is Scientology, supposed to be a church, not very churchy. Haggis Basher just watched an old Canadian documentary where a woman asked her parents for her inheritance in advance for Scientology courses. Yes. Yes, it's happened so many times. They are shameless. Yes, Anna. Greedy, greedy, greedy. Greedy, greedy, greedy. Every day, all day. They are just greedy. Greedy as all get out. A week earlier, okay, so they gave them the tour. So then the body gets found. True to form, the cult had even haggled with the Lotticks over that $3,000, right? They tried to say like, no, you don't need that money back. He meant it as a donation. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's true, Scientology up north. Imagine all the generational wealth lost to the cult. That's absolutely true. A cult leader told Noah's parents that their son had been at the church earlier, just hours before he disappeared. The church has invented hundreds of goods and services for which members are urged to give donations. Are you having trouble moving swiftly up the bridge? That is advancing up the step ladder of enlightenment. Then you can have your case reviewed for a mere $1,250 donation. Want to know why a Thetan hangs on to the physical universe? Try 52 Hubbard's tape-recorded speeches from 1952 titled Ron's Philadelphia Doctorate Course Lectures for $2,525. And he did actually call it that, the Philadelphia Doctorate Course, that you would be like a doctor of Scientology. My daughter Shelby did it. I wonder if that officially makes her a doctor. It does not. But still, next time I call her, I'm going to say, hey, Dr. Shelby. But she's going to be like, what? I'm going to be like, remember, you did the Philadelphia doctorate course. That's a doctorate course. You did it, right? Therefore, you a doctor. My daughter's a doctor. I got a doctor in the family. I'm going to add that to my LinkedIn. Natalie Webster has a doctor in the family, and it's her daughter. Doctor of what? Scientology. Dr. Shelby. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so yeah, ripping people off. Ron's Philadelphia doctorate course. So that's, costs over $2,500. Next, 9 other series of the same sort. For the collector, gold and leather-bound editions of 22 of Hubbard's books and bookends on subjects ranging from Scientology ethics to radiation can be had for just $1,900. To gain influence and lure richer, more sophisticated Scientology followers, Scientology has lately resorted to a wide array of front groups and financial scams. And this is when it gets into the front groups and the financial scams, including some that you guys have maybe already heard about. This is going to blow your mind. Be prepared to have your mind blown. Get comfortable. Anyone else need your electrolytes? Water, coffee, whatever you're doing. Because this is about to get messy. So let's talk about Scientology front groups. Consulting, Sterling Management Systems, formed in 1983, has been ranked in recent years by Inc. magazine as one of America's fastest growing private companies. Estimated 1988 revenues, $20 million. Sterling regularly mails a free newsletter to more than 300,000 healthcare professionals, mostly dentists, promising to increase their income dramatically. The firm offers seminars and courses that typically cost $10,000. But Sterling's true aim is to hook customers for Scientology. This is a quote. The church has a rotten product, so they package it as something else, says Peter Georgiades. I'm going to say Georgiades, says Peter, a Pittsburgh attorney who represents Sterling victims. It's kind of a bait and switch. Sterling's founder, dentist Gregory Hughes, is now under investigation by California's Board of Dental Examiners for incompetence. 9 lawsuits are pending against him for malpractice. 7 others have been settled, mostly for orthodontic work on children. Wow. That's a lot of lawsuits for a dentist. Wait a minute. Greg Hughes, wasn't any of my former Scientology Sea Org people in the chat, wasn't Greg Hughes in the Sea Org? Am I getting my names mixed up? I think I'm confusing him with somebody. Hey, Danny. That's right, Mock. It always gets worse and more expensive with Scientology. Is Greg Hughes, was he in the Sea Org? I need to think on that. But if anybody knows, if you're on the replay, jump in the comments and let me know. Gosh, because I feel like he is. I'm totally picturing somebody. So one of you operating Thetan people, just read my mind. Okay, you get it. You get it. I'm sending you the mental image picture. I don't know. Let's see. All right, let's go back to this. Maybe explains. So this Greg Hughes was now under investigation, right? Many dentists who have unwittingly been drawn into the cult are filing or threatening lawsuits as well. Dentist Robert Geary of Ohio, who entered a Sterling seminar in 1988, endured the most extreme high-pressure sales tactics I have ever faced. Sterling officials told Geary, 45, that their firm was not linked to Scientology. So they go into these businesses and they don't even say that they're linked to Scientology. They say L. Ron Hubbard's business technology, stuff like that. But they don't actually let them know they're linked to Scientology. I don't know. You kind of might want to know. You go on in, you share all this stuff. Why are you hiding that it's Scientology? Why? Because people don't like Scientology. Even back then, people knew more of the truth about Scientology. Okay, so let's see. But Geary claims they eventually convinced him that he and his wife Dorothy had personal problems that required auditing. Oh, shocker! Oh, Scientology comes into your business. They get up in your personal life and suddenly, oh, your life is in ruins. How do you even put one foot in front of the other? Over 5 months, the Gearys say they spent $130,000 for services, plus $50,000 for gold embossed investment grade books signed by Hubbard. Geary contends that Scientologists not only called his bank to increase his credit card limit, but also forged his signature on a $20,000 loan application. It was insane, he recalls. I couldn't get an accounting from them of what I was paying for. At one point, the Gearys claimed Scientologists held Dorothy hostage for 2 weeks in a mountain cabin, after which she was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown. We got to let that one sink in for a minute. You get all this money, $130,000 out of them, $50,000 for these gold embossed investment books. And then you forge his name on a $20,000 loan application. And now his wife, who was held for 2 weeks in a mountain cabin and then was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown afterwards. This is what happened when Scientology came into his life. He brought them into the business and he let them into his life. Next thing you know, he's out well over $180,000, and his wife is now being treated for a nervous breakdown. My guess is, I don't know if the article goes on to explain it, is that she probably was what Scientology calls potential trouble source type 3, which means you go under baby watch. So somebody watches you basically what they did to Lisa McPherson. That's what happened. So, wow, they held her in some mountain cabin, after which she was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown. All because he was solicited by a Scientology front group who said they had no ties to Scientology. This is just some L. Ron Hubbard technology. And look what happened to his life in a short period of time. 180 grand plus, probably in debt, and his wife hospitalized for a nervous breakdown. Last October, Sterling broke some bad news to another dentist, Glover Rowe of Gaston, Alaska, and his wife, Dee. Tests showed that unless they signed up for auditing, Glover's practice would fail and Dee would someday abuse their child. So this is how they're manipulating people, because they go through the personality test and other tests. And they're like, if you don't get this stuff handled, if you don't send your wife for Scientology auditing, she's going to harm your child. You can't afford to not do this, is basically kind of their take on it. Glover's practice would fail and Dee would someday abuse their child. So this is what they're telling him what happened. The next month, the Rose flew to Glendale, California, where they shuttled daily from a local hotel to a Dianetics center. We thought they were brilliant people because they seemed to know so much about us, recalls Dee. Then we realized our hotel room must have been bugged. After bolting from the center, $23,000 poorer, the Rose say they were chased repeatedly by Scientologists on foot and in cars. Dentists aren't the only ones at risk. Scientology also makes pitches to chiropractors, podiatrists, and veterinarians. And I would add optometrists to that list because that's how my former husband got into Scientology. Haggis Basher, that sounds just like what was said to Ruby Frankie about her hubby. Interesting, right? I guess the cult leaders really do use the same playbook. This is crazy, you guys. Oh, and by the way, a little bit of homework. If you guys haven't hit the like button, make sure you do that. Thank you. Public influence. One front group, the Way to Happiness Foundation, has distributed to children in thousands of the nation's public schools more than 3.5 million copies of a booklet Hubbard wrote on morality, which again, let that sink in. L. Ron Hubbard wrote a book on morality that Scientology uses to this day. We're talking the same L. Ron Hubbard that wanted to bring about the Antichrist to stop an alien invasion and said we all had space cooties. The same L. Ron Hubbard. The church calls the scheme the largest dissemination project in Scientology history. Applied Scholastics is the name of still another front group, which is attempting to install a Hubbard tutorial program in public schools, primarily those populated by minorities. We know that Scientology targets underserved groups, minorities, because it's easy for them and people are desperate at times. They make it seem like it's a great solution. Come work for us. Sure, it's a billion-year contract, but it's room and board, and we might be able to help you with your immigration status. You would be a religious worker. Let's see, where am I? The group also plans a 1,000-acre campus where it will train educators to teach various Hubbard methods. The disingenuously named Citizens Commission on Human Rights is a Scientology group at war with psychiatry. Its primary competitor. Can you imagine? Your primary competitor is psychiatry. The commission typically issues reports aimed at discrediting particular psychiatrists and the field in general. The CCHR is also behind an all-out war against Eli Lilly, the maker of Prozac, the nation's top-selling anti-depression drug, or at least back then it was. Despite scant evidence, the group's members, who call themselves psychbusters, claim that Prozac drives people to murder or suicide. Through mass mailings, appearances on talk shows, and heavy lobbying, CCHR has hurt drug sales and helped spark dozens of lawsuits against Eli Lilly. Now, I just felt something like stabbing pain in my eye. It's like somebody just took an ice pick and just drove it into my eye. It's probably from reading all of this BS. This is what Scientology does. Again, they've been doing this for years. This is what happened back then. It's all about the front groups and the lawsuits, which they tie people up in court to drain their resources. It's not even about winning for them. Another Scientology linked group is the Concerned Businessmen's Association of America. Holds anti-drug contests and awards $5,000 grants to schools as a way to recruit students and curry favor with educational officials. West Virginia Senator John D. Rockefeller IV unwittingly commended the CBAA in 1987 on the Senate floor. Last August, author Alex Haley was the keynote speaker at its annual awards banquet in Los Angeles. Says Haley, I didn't know much about that group going in. I'm a Methodist. Ignorance about Scientology can be embarrassing. 2 months ago, Illinois Governor Jim Edgar, noting that Scientology's founder, quote, has solved the aberrations of the human mind, proclaimed March 13th L. Ron Hubbard Day. He rescinded the proclamation in late March once he learned who Hubbard really was. Now, back in the day, I'm like, fine, right? Do we even have the internet? We had the internet, but not everybody had the internet in like 1991. But still, it would be hard to check. Today, there's no reason. It just blows my mind. How can anybody today, any elected official, show up at a Scientology meeting, opening, whatever it is, and represent and say, and then try and claim you didn't know? Karen Bass, the LA mayor, when she wasn't mayor, was in bed with Scientology. And then later on, when she was confronted about it, because she was singing their praises at the opening of the Los Angeles organization, the Blue Buildings, right on L. Ron Hubbard Way, when she was busy doing that. And then later, it was used against her in her campaign, as it should be. This woman supports Scientology, a failing, destroying human trafficking cult. Then she tried to say, I didn't know. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know it was that bad. Well, you knew, though. You knew, but it wasn't that bad? What is that? Like, oh, you know what? Because he only hit her once. He didn't slap her twice. It's just not that bad. That will continue to be thrown in her face. Like, if you are a politician, like, I don't know, you must have a death wish if you're going and you're publicly supporting Scientology in 2025. Now let's talk about healthcare. HealthMed, a chain of clinics run by Scientologists, promotes a grueling and excessive system of saunas, exercise, and vitamins designed by Hubbard to purify the body. Experts denounce the regimen as quackery and potentially harmful, yet HealthMed solicits unions and public agency for contracts. The chain is plugged heavily in a new book, Diet for a Poisoned Planet, by journalist David Steinman, who concludes that scores of common food, among them peanuts, bluefish, peaches, and cottage cheese, are dangerous. Former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop labeled the book trash, and the Food and Drug Administration issued a paper in October that claims Steinman distorts his facts. HealthMed is a gateway to Scientology, and Steinman's book is a sorting mechanism, says physician William Jarvis, who is head of the National Council Against Health Fraud. Steinman, who describes Hubbard favorably as a researcher, denies any ties to the church and contends HealthMed has no affiliation that I know of with Scientology. Today, especially, I feel like it's going to be harder and harder for them to hide behind these front groups. And I know what y'all thinking. Y'all right now are probably like, oh man, now I'm afraid to get a dentist because he could be a Scientologist. Well, number one, look for way to happinesses in the lobby. That's one. Look for certificates on the walls that they've completed Scientology courses or upper level services. Many professionals display their operating Thetan certificates, which honestly, I think my best day in Scientology, y'all, my best day, I would cringe at that. I wouldn't put it up on the wall, or I wouldn't want to. Hold on, I got to get comfortable. Oh, let's fix this chair. There we go. It's a little bit less. Everybody adjust if you need to get comfy. We'll wait. There we go. Oh, good. I like this. Now I can kind of lean back. I'm not hating it. These front groups are dangerous. In my opinion, these front groups are as dangerous as Scientology themselves, because that's where it leads. It all leads into Scientology, and they'll get money out of you first. You're going to pay their consulting fees, do some of their courses, of which they kick back money to Scientology. Then they're going to send you to Scientology, and they're going to take whatever's left. Let's see. Hubbard's purification treatments are the mainstay of Narconon, a Scientology-run chain of 33 alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers, some in prisons under the name Criminaon in 12 countries. Narconon, a classic vehicle for drawing addicts into the cult, now plans to open what's called the world's largest treatment center, a 1,400-bed facility on an Indian reservation in Oklahoma. At a 1989 ceremony in Newkirk, the Association for Better Living and Education, which is a Scientology front group, ABLE, Association for Better Living and Education, presented Narconon a check for $200,000 and a study praising its work. The association turned out to be part of Scientology itself. So back then, these dudes are like, let's give each other awards. I'm going to tell you how right and great you are about this. And you're all Scientology. It's Scientology, patting Scientology on the back, just cosplaying other legit organizations and then being like, yeah, Scientology is just doing all the work there. It's insane. And then the fact how much they hid too, that it was Scientology. And talk about moving the money. So Abel gives Narconon a $200,000 check for studying and praising its work. It's just Scientology giving themselves the money. The association turned out to be part of Scientology itself. Today, the town is battling to keep out the cult, which has fought back through such tactics as sending private investigators to snoop on the mayor and the local newspaper publisher. Of course they do, because that is what they do. Now, financial scams. 3 Florida Scientologists, including Ronald Bernstein, a big contributor to the church's international war chest, pleaded guilty in March to using their rare coin dealership as money laundering. They're money laundering for Scientology. Other notorious activities by Scientologists include making the shady Vancouver Stock Exchange even shadier and plotting to plant operatives in the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and Export-Import Bank of the U.S. The alleged purpose of this scheme? To gain inside information on which countries are going to be denied credit, so that Scientology-linked traders can make illicit profits by taking short positions in those country currencies. Now, I don't understand a lot of that, I'll be honest. But it sounds like a mess. But you can see where the problem is here. And it also sounds very much like, I wonder what influence the Feshbacks had on this, because the Feshbacks are this, Scientology royalty family that has donated a ton of money, and they made their money shorting stocks. And it's interesting that now you have Scientology themselves doing this. In the stock market, the practice of shorting involves borrowing shares of publicly traded companies in the hope that the price will go down before the stocks must be bought on the market and returned to the lender. The Feshbach brothers, I guess this answers my question. I didn't read this once before. I'm reading it for the first time in years with you guys. I was like, that sounds like the Feshbach brothers. Yep, here we go. The Feshbach brothers of Palo Alto, California, Kurt, Joseph, and Matthew, have become the leading short sellers in the U.S. with more than 500 million under management. The Feshbacks command a staff of about 60 employees and claim to have earned better returns than the Dow Jones Industrial Average for most of the 1980s. And they say they owe it all to the teachings of Scientology, whose war chest has received more than $1 million from the family. So this family, they're big donors to Scientology. Isn't that crazy? Hold on, I'm distracted by the chat now. Let me get distracted for just a second. I was just laughing at Danny throwing shade to Rib Guy. Yeah, Don Moore, that's some shady shiz. It really is. It's super shady. And you guys, it gets worse. It gets worse. The Feshbacks also embrace the church's tactics. The brothers are the terrors of the stock exchange. I feel like they were probably the Grant Cardone of back in the day. My former Scientology friends, you tell me what you think about that. I kind of feel like they were. In congressional hearings in 1989, the heads of several companies claimed the Feshbach operatives have spread false information to government agencies and posed in various guises. So they did disguises, such as a Securities and Exchange Commission official, in an effort to discredit their companies and drive the stocks down. Wow. So they pretended to be officials, went in to try and drive the stocks down of a company so that they could make money. In an effort to discredit their companies and drive the stocks down, Michael Russell, who ran a chain of business journals, testified that a Feshbach employee called his bankers and interfered with his loans. Sometimes the Feshbachs send private investigators to dig up dirt on firms, which is then shared with business reporters, brokers, and fund managers. So if I'm understanding this correctly, and I'm not a stocks person, I like my money where I can see it. In the form of lots of electrolytes. But this sounds to me like massive espionage on some level. I mean, that really, when this article talks about the Feshbachs really taking Scientology tactics and putting their own twist on it, like they weren't kidding about it. That's right. Does it matter to you? Aaron worked for Kurt as well. He worked for Kurt Feshbach. Aaron Smith Levin, over at Growing Up in Scientology, was a researcher. He did a lot of research for him. Okay, so Michael Russell, who ran a chain of business journals, testified that a Feshbach employee called his bankers and interfered with his loans. This is great. This is next level. The Feshbachs, who wear jackets bearing the slogan "Stockbusters." It's kind of funny, but it's kind of dorky, and I kind of feel like I hate it because I don't like them, and now I feel like I'm being, if it wasn't the Feshbachs, maybe it's kind of funny. Nisa, I gotta find the aloha button. Thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate it. We do members only live streams each week. And you guys know, if you want, it's another way to help support the channel. I appreciate it. There's a link in the description of the video if you want to become a member. All right, back to it. The brothers seemed aligned with Scientology's war on psychiatry and medicine. Many of their targets are health and biotechnology firms. Legitimate short selling performs a public service by deflating hype stocks, says Robert Flattery, the editor of Equities magazine and a harsh critic of the brothers. But the Feshbachs have damaged scores of good startups. Occasionally, a Scientologist's business antics land him in jail. Last August, a former devotee named Stephen Fishman began serving a 5-year prison term in Florida. His crime? Stealing blank stock confirmation slips from his employer, a major brokerage house, to use as proof that he owned stock, entitling him to join dozens of successful class action lawsuits. Fishman made roughly $1 million this way from 1983 to 88 and spent as much as 30% of the loot on Scientology books and tapes. Scientology denies any tie to the Fishman scam, a claim strongly disputed by both Fishman and his longtime psychiatrist, Uwe Geertz, a prominent Florida hypnotist. Oh, now it's really getting crazy. Now we got the hypnotist coming in. We got the Feshbachs. We got a Fishman. Both men claimed that when arrested, Fishman was ordered by the church to kill Geertz and then do an EOC, or end of cycle, which is church jargon for unaliving somebody. You see, when people ask me, like, Natalie, do you ever worry about Scientology taking out a hit on you? And I'm like, nope, not at all. But do they have a history or people connected to them where it was considered, maybe possibly even done? Is there a history there? Yes. Adam, you mean the Stephen Fishman? I'm not sure which one you think, but put it in the comments and tell me. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're thinking. Yeah, you're so right, Haggis Basher. It's horrible. It's terrible. I couldn't believe it. Fishman was ordered by the church to kill Gertz, and then do an end of cycle, which would be unaliving himself. Book publishing. Scientology mischief making has even moved to the book industry. Since 1985, at least a dozen of Hubbard's books, printed by a church company, have made bestseller lists. They range from 5,000-page sci-fi decologies, Black Genesis, The Enemy Within, An Alien Affair, to the 40-year-old Dianetics. In 1988, the trade publication Publishers Weekly awarded the dead author a plaque commemorating the appearance of Dianetics on its bestsellers list for 100 consecutive weeks. Critics pan most of Hubbard's books as unreadable, while defectors claim that church insiders are sometimes the real authors. All right, I've been hearing this a lot more, especially in my conversations with John Atag. I did not know that L. Ron Hubbard didn't write everything that he claimed to write, that many of the books were actually compilations and put together by other people. So I don't know. I think some of them were like they'd go in his lectures and then would turn it into a book. Just like reusing content, I guess, right? Like I do a video, but if it's a long video, I might take out 20, 30 minutes and make a shorter video so people can just grab that piece of info. I mean, that's probably their version of it. Gnome, you're hilarious. The only plaque Hubbard earned was what accumulated on his teeth. Okay, so Adam says Steve Fishman released the OT levels and claimed to be an insider. He turned out to be a fanaticist and was never in. Huh. I don't know. Well, let's see if it all gets tied together. Let's remember that. Let's put a pin in that and try and figure that out. Even so, Scientology has sent out armies of its followers to buy the group's books at such major chains as B. Dalton's and Walden Books to sustain the illusion of a best-selling author. A former Dalton's manager says that some books arrived in his store with the chain's pricey stickers already on them, suggesting that copies were being recycled. Scientology claims that sales of Hubbard's books now top 90 million worldwide. The scheme, set up to gain converts and credibility, is coupled with a radio and TV advertising campaign virtually unparalleled in the book industry. So these people, this is so tacky. This is so tacky. I need something to drink again. This is like really tacky. This is so this is one of the most Scientology things I think they've ever done. They want to boost these books on the bestseller list. So what do? They go into these stores and they buy them, and they don't even take off the stickers. And then when the books are gone and the store reorders, they give them the same books with the price sticker from the store already on it. That's nuts. Yeah, Haggis Basher, you heard that too? You heard that before, buying them and shipping the same ones? Yep. It's true. It's true. They've been doing it for a long time. Me and Taz, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Sending you extra aloha today. I appreciate it. I will take it. All right. So in each case, oh wait, no, let me back it up. Scientology devotes vast resources to squelching its critics. In 1986, Hubbard and his church have been the subject of 4 unfriendly books, all released by small yet courageous publishers. In each case, the writers have been badgered and heavily sued. One of Hubbard's policies was that all perceived enemies are fair game and subject to being tricked, sued, or lied to or destroyed. Those who criticize the church, journalists, doctors, lawyers, and even judges, often find themselves engulfed in litigation, stalked by private eyes, framed for fictional crimes, beaten up, or threatened with death. Psychologist Margaret Singer, 69, an outspoken Scientology critic and professor at the University of California. Berkeley now travels regularly under an assumed name to avoid harassment. So they harass this psychologist so much, she has to travel under an assumed name. Ugh. After the Los Angeles Times published a negative series on the church last summer, Scientologists spent an estimated $1 million to plaster the reporters' names on hundreds of billboards and bus placards across the city. How crazy is that? People write an article, so you're going to go like publish their... Can you imagine if they did that today? Are there enough billboards for the people talking crap about Scientology? Are there even enough? Could they put it? Where's my billboard, Scientology? Now, it's a good thing that a lot of this, I feel, because one, the internet. Secondly, there's so many people speaking out against Scientology. I don't think they can possibly track and handle all of us. They try to at times, but I think it's an impossibility. And then you add to it the real power of this community, the people never in Scientology, but are all in on ending this cult. Because you guys have the numbers. You bring the numbers and you bring the support. So far, it's not been enough for former members to share their horrific stories of surviving and escaping Scientology to make a difference. But with you guys supporting, showing up, sharing, letting people know the truth, it's making a difference. Scientology didn't count on that. And what are they going to do? Find out who all you guys are, and then go put some billboards out with your names on it. It's kind of like, too, it's like that won't work. It's the same way that they tried to go out and photograph the protesters when they were first showing up at the Hollywood Testing Center. Do you remember that? Bunch of Scientologists, their whole clapback was they were going to show up and videotape the people videoing it. These are content creators. They want people to see their faces. You put a camera in Jessica Palmadetz's face, you think she's going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to stop protesting Scientology. They got me on film. Take me home, mama. No, it's stupid. They don't understand. They don't give a, you know what? They don't give a crap. They don't care. They literally are online for a living, putting out their name and their image. Put me on a billboard. Just, use a flattering photo is all I'm asking. Maybe one from the 90s, I think. Actually, I got some from the early 2000s. I'm going to send them some of my boudoir photos. Office of Special Affairs, make a note here. I think in case you do go back to this old tactics of doing billboards of people who criticize Scientology, I would like a billboard. But I'm going to send you some boudoir photos because I'm getting older and I feel like those photos it just should be part of history and someone should be enjoying it. I'd like you to put them out on giant billboards. Natalie talks crap. All right, moving on. The church's most fearsome advocates are its lawyers. Hubbard warned his followers in writing to, quote, beware of attorneys who tell you not to sue. The purpose of the suit is to harass and discourage rather than to win. That's a quote right from L. Ron Hubbard, and I've said this multiple times. Scientology does not do lawsuits because they're trying to win. L. Ron Hubbard said, no, harass. Drain the resources, because if you can drain a lot of financial resources in a community, there's limited resources. So if they can get you to pay money to have to fight them in court, that's tying up resources. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Drain the resources. It's all part of their whole program. That's right, Terry. Bull baiting comes so natural to Jess. I agree. It was so funny. I'm like, you're going to point the camera at her and act like, she's going to be like, oh no, say it isn't so. Are you going to put me on the internet? No, don't put me on the internet. Thank you, Queen of Karma. You're so kind. Yeah, I just haven't know what to do. I need a use for those photos. Okay, moving on. The result? Scientology has brought hundreds of suits against its perceived enemies and today pays an estimated $20 million annually to more than 100 lawyers. This was back in 1991, you guys. So it's different. They're paying so much more money. Hey, Fingy, so much more money. Gnome, Scientology lost its own lawsuit again, Time Magazine, but it cost millions of dollars and a decade to defend, so was effective at cooling press coverage down until South Park episode. Exactly. That's why they do it. They try to create like this example. It no longer works. It no longer works because we're protected by our First Amendment speech. I'm sharing my stories. They can't shut me up. And also, NDAs don't apply when there's been a crime committed, as I understand it. I'm not a lawyer, but I watch a lot of lawyers on TV. Yeah, Irina, I vaguely recall some quote from the OSA hat materials to the extent of the second best thing after a lawsuit won is a lawsuit lost. That's right. Because it's not about winning. It's about harassing. It's about tying up. That's why they do it. They will drag it on as long as they can. Let's see here. One legal goal of Scientology is to bankrupt the opposition or bury it under paper. The church has 70. Now, this was back in the day. This was before. In 93 was the IRS win for Scientology when they got tax exempt status. This was 1991. This was right before that. The church has 71 active lawsuits against the IRS alone. One of them, Miscavige versus IRS, has required the U.S. to produce an index of 52,000 pages of documents. Boston attorney Michael Flynn, again, this is back in the day, Boston attorney Michael Flynn, who helped Scientology victims from 79 to 87, personally endured 14 frivolous lawsuits, all of them dismissed. Another lawyer, Joseph Yanni, believes the church has so subverted justice and the judicial system that it should be barred from seeking equity in any court. He should know. Yanni represented the cult until 1987, when he says he was asked to help church officials steal medical records to blackmail an opposing attorney who is allegedly beaten up instead. Since Yanni quit representing the church, he has been the target of death threats, burglaries, lawsuits, and other harassment. Let that sink in here. Steal medical records to blackmail an opposing attorney who was allegedly beaten up instead. So we couldn't blackmail him, so let's just beat him up. Let's just beat him up. Y'all remember when that guy went and somebody hurt Confident Chris back in the day? That's what I think, Scientology, they have a reputation to doing this, a long history, and I wouldn't put it past them. Scientology critics contend that the U.S. needs to crack down on the church in a major organized way. I want to know, where is our government? Demands Toby Pleven, a Los Angeles attorney who handles victims. It shouldn't be left to private litigators because God knows most of us are afraid to get involved. But law enforcement agents are also wary. Every investigator is cautious, walking on eggshells when it comes to the church, says a Florida police detective who has tracked the cult since 1988. It will take a federal effort with lots of money and manpower. And I think that's very true. I think it would take that. Haggis Basher, the lawyer hired by someone in Clearwater, was paid by them to go and represent a critic. Was that the same? Was that the then mayor? The lawyer hired by someone in Clearwater was paid by them to go and represent a critic. I don't know. Do you mean Gabe Cesaris back then? Give me a little bit more info there. So far, the agency giving Scientology the most grief is the IRS, whose officials have implied that Hubbard's successors may be looting the church's coffers. Yeah, they were. They were like taking buckets of money, suitcases of money to L. Ron Hubbard. In his trailer where he was hiding out, wasting away, there were stacks of money, is what people say. Stacks of money. So yeah, they were looting money from the church. Absolutely. Since 1988, when the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the revocation of the cult's tax-exempt status, a massive IRS probe of church centers across the country has been underway. An IRS agent, Marcus Owens, has estimated that thousands of IRS employees have been involved. Another agent in an internal IRS memorandum spoke hopefully of the ultimate disintegration of the church. A small but helpful beacon shone last June when a federal appeals court ruled that 2 cassette tapes featuring conversations between church officials and their lawyers are evidence of a plan to commit future fraud against the IRS. Remember, this came out in 91. They went and got their tax exempt status 2 years later. 2 years later. The IRS and FBI have been debriefing Scientology defectors for the past 3 years, in part to gain evidence for a major racketeering case that appears to have stalled last summer. Federal agents complain that the Justice Department is unwilling to spend the money needed to endure a drawn-out war with Scientology or to fend off the cult's notorious jihads against individual agents. So you guys might often wonder, like, why? Why does law enforcement not do anything? How are they getting away with this? Well, let's read that again. And this was in 91. Federal agents complained that the Justice Department is unwilling to spend the money needed to endure a drawn-out war with Scientology or to fend off the cult's notorious jihads against individual agents. In my opinion, the church has one of the most effective intelligence operations in the U.S., rivaling even that of the FBI, says Ted Gunderson, former head of the FBI in Los Angeles. I mean, you got the head of the FBI in Los Angeles being like, oh my gosh, like, look what these guys are doing. And that they have actually giving them props for having a really good intelligence agency. And they're supposed to be a church. This is like a church. So Haggis Basher says, yes, I think Gabe hired a lawyer to defend the charges laid against him. And Scientology Clearwater had paid off the lawyer Gabe hired, methinks. You know what it could be? Was that for where they tried to frame him for a hit and run? Because that happened. I wonder if that was the lawsuit. Foreign governments have been moving even more vigorously against the organization. In Canada, the church and 9 of its members will be tried in June. Now, this was back in 91, on charges of stealing government documents, many of them retrieved in an enormous police raid of the church's Toronto headquarters. Scientology proposed to give $1 million to the needy if the case was dropped, but Canada spurned the offer. Since 1986, authorities in France, Spain, and Italy have raided more than 50 Scientology centers, pending charges against more than 100 of its overseas church members for fraud, extortion, capital flight, coercion, illegally practicing medicine, and taking advantage of mentally incapacitated people. In Germany last month, leading politicians accused the cult of trying to infiltrate a major party as well as launching an immense recruitment drive in the East. Scientology is still doing Scientology. This is, again, this was the Time magazine article that came out in the 90s, and all of this they're still doing today. Sometimes even the church's biggest zealots can use a little protection. Screen star John Travolta has long served as an unofficial Scientology spokesman, even though he told a magazine in 1983 that he was opposed to the church's management. High-level defectors claim that Travolta has long feared that if he defected, details of his sexual life would be made public. He felt pretty intimidated about this getting out and told me so, recalls William Franks, the church's former chairman of the board. There were no outright threats made, but it was implicit. If you leave, they immediately start digging up everything. Franks was driven out in 1981 after attempting to reform the church. People have asked before too, why doesn't anybody try to, stand up to David Miscavige and create change? Nope. They'll just get rid of you. The church's former head of security, Richard Asnaran, recalls Scientology ringleader Miscavige repeatedly joking to staffers about Travolta's allegedly promiscuous homosexual behavior. At this point, any threat to expose Travolta seems I always have a hard time with this word. Superfluous. Last May, a male porn star collected $100,000 from a tabloid for an account of his alleged 2-year liaison with the celebrity. Travolta refused to comment, and in December, his lawyer dismissed questions about the subject as bizarre. 2 weeks later, Travolta announced that he was getting married to actress Kelly Preston, a fellow Scientologist. Interesting timing, wasn't it, back then? Shortly after Hubbard's death, the church retained Trout and Reese, a respected Connecticut-based firm of marketing consultants, to help boost its public image. We were brutally honest, says Jack Trout. We advised them to clean up their act, stop with the controversy, and even to stop being a church. They did not want to hear that. Instead, Scientology hired one of the country's largest PR outfits, Hill and Knowlton, whose executives refused to discuss the lucrative relationship. Hill and Knowlton must feel that these guys are not totally off the wall, says Trout, unless it's just for the money. Yeah, when your own like big league PR company is telling you, I don't know, maybe you should just stop being a church. And they're like, no, that's where all the money is. But here they go and they hire somebody to try and solve these problems, and they don't even follow the advice. Not at all. Not at all. One of Scientology's main strategies is to keep advancing the tired argument. One of Scientology's main strategies is to keep advancing the tired argument that the church is being persecuted by anti-religionists. It is supported in that position by the American Civil Liberties Union and the National Council of Churches. But in the end, money is what Scientology is all about. As long as the organization's opponents and victims are successfully squelched, Scientology's managers and lawyers will keep pocketing millions of dollars by helping it achieve its ends. Millions of dollars. So there's also all the lawyers and the PR firms, right, that Scientology is paying, which I don't know how you do that in good conscience. Like, I understand a criminal defense attorney. You have to defend criminals because that's how it's set up here. You are innocent until proven guilty, or at least you're supposed to be. But these Scientology lawyers, the people who've made money off of it as well, there's been a lot from it that have benefited for sure. Oh, hey, Tilty Bird, coming out of lurk mode to say glad to hear this article. Thank you for reading it. My pleasure. There's a lot in here, and it is very applicable to today, which is why I wanted to share it. So let's take a look. Hey, Farrell Cheryl. I'm not sure if I said hi. I missed you there. Catherine, the publication date was 1991. I know this article and probably read it years ago, but I'm getting old now and can't remember the date. Me too. I saw it written down. Was there more of a date? Let me look. Let's see. It was May 6, 1991. And this article was written in Time magazine by Richard Behar. Let's see. Anna, at least Jim Baker served time for his crimes. Now, if only DM, one can hope, right? I know. I hope so too. Nisa, even though they are supposed to keep a secret, they're bad at that because they keep leaving a calling card. Oh, I think you meant calling card. That's so true. Scientology up north. That sounds something similar to that. Okay, reset. That sounds something similar to Vladimir Putin having an assistant to taste all his food before eating. Exactly. Skyfire says he was probably afraid of a body thetan getting in his water. Oh, David Miscavige putting the cover over. I agree. Yeah, and I wonder if he had a food tester. Anna, all of the Time magazine subscribers are saying, what? People believe this as truth? Really? Oh, I don't doubt that at all. Yeah. That would cover my round trip flight to Hawaii from Ohio. Oh, what will some of the money discussed in the article? And it'd be a better use of that money too. Nisa, they really know how to take advantage of persons like that. It's so tragic. So true. Professor Kakan, contact Mark Vicente. He took years of videos He took years of video of Keith Raniere of NXIVM. That's right. He's got a YouTube channel. That is right. Lisa Kelson. This was someone else's question in the chat, but I can't remember who asked. But now I want to know too. Are children auditing courses, the same price as adult courses? It depends. Children do adult courses. There are a series of courses for children in Scientology that are cheaper. Children's communication course, children's study course. But then there's other courses they'll have children do, and they pay the adult rate. They do. I think the children's courses are a little less, but there really are very few because kids get moved right onto the main Scientology courses, and those are always at adult prices. There's no kid adult pricing for those. Haggis Basher, is that the introspection rundown? Yes. Yeah, I think they held her to do the introspection rundown. Scientology up north, do you still have your diplomas? If yes, because you showed them one day. It's also true they only give the frame for taking the official photo when they take the frames away. Yeah, well, you know what? In my day, somehow I managed to avoid graduation. So I don't think I ever got a really big one, but no, I don't have any of my certificates for finishing anything. I must have just thrown them out. Oh my goodness. Aloha. Lisa Kelson, thank you for being a member for 5 months. It's been 5 months already. Aloha. That is so fast. Gina says, my new holistic doctor is an escapee from Scientology. Ooh, girl. I'd love to talk to him, especially being a holistic doctor. So he or she, find out if they want to chat. I'd love to hear about that. Adam said Steve Fishman released the OT levels and claimed to be an insider. He turned out to be a fanaticist and was never in. That's right. We got to look more into that, Adam. Gnome, is this the famous 1991 Time Magazine article, The Cult of Greed? Yes, it is. And I don't think I linked it down below. So I am going to link it down below so you can go back and reference it. Because whether you're just curious about what Scientology is in the history, or this is information that can be helpful in helping former members, it can be helpful in protesting Scientology. It really could. The Iron Cheek. Have you seen the latest video where Streets, Aaron, and Jenna are in? What a great video. Yes. Yes. And it's getting huge views. I'm going to recap that tomorrow. We are going to talk all about it. Yes. It's amazing. It just came out. Oh, Haggis Basher, you watched it already. Cool. Oh, good. Yeah. Jojo Bananas did too. Awesome. Nisa says, John shouldn't be intimidated by that anymore. Now no one cares. They are more likely to accept it. It's lifestyles like that now. I agree. And I've always been perplexed about that. Now, I'm not saying this is the case, but when I speculate, keyword is speculate on what could have happened or happens with John Travolta, maybe there's something that's not just about his sexuality. You know, in Scientology, you get off all your overts and your withholds, you're security checked and interrogated, and it's all written down because the idea is you're unburdening yourself. And now you can, L. Ron Hubbard Scientology can actually soak into you. So I don't think it would be too far-fetched that today that there's not maybe something that they have over him that's not just about who he likes to sleep with. Because I agree with you. It's 2025. Nobody gives a crap. Fine. Do what you know what I'm saying? Short of harming anybody. No one would care really today, and he would have a lot of support. John Travolta would have so much support if he left Scientology. He really would. Tom Cruise, not so much. I just feel like I know. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jojo Bananas. It's a Tommy G one. Yeah, you guys got to all watch it because we're going to talk about it tomorrow. It's a good one. Queen of Karma, people don't understand that when you're joining a cult, it's a slow manipulation process. They never tell you the entire belief system on the first day, or they know you wouldn't believe. It's very true. That is so true. In November of that year, there was a paper published, International Society Controlled by the Church of Scientology by Dr. Stephen Kent, Society for the Scientific Study of Religion. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. Abigail. Aloha. Thank you for gifting 5 Life After Occult memberships. Thank you, Abigail. Everybody give her a mahalo. Why is my nose itching so much all of a sudden? Danny says, the interesting thing is, why doesn't more people talk about this? Do not be scared to speak up. Well, talk about this as in what happened in the past. I mean, we do and we are. A lot of the things I like, that's what I've decided to start doing, is going through some of the older press and publications because it's still valid today. And there are, you learn some things in Scientology, but understanding the history, I agree with you, Danny, is I think a key part of making sure we don't repeat it. It shows us the track record of Scientology. It shows us where they've been consistent, where they have not been consistent. Danny, oh, yeah. But here's the other thing. I don't think people are as scared to speak out anymore because back then, I mean, look at how many publications, how many, with the internet, Scientology cannot go after everyone, and it's a protected First Amendment right. So those attempts to intimidate, they don't work like they did back in the day. We have the internet. We'll call you out. Look how much it backfired with the protesters in Hollywood. Scientology decided that they were going to call Jessica Pomadez's mom. They were going to send letters to other protesters' parents. Do you know what your child is doing? Adult child, by the way. Adult child. And you know what? I bet they were proud of those adult children. Danny, didn't they do that too? They sent a whole packet of stuff to your parents. Oh, Sandy, is it hot there? Today the humidity's at 100 and is so my attitude. At this point, I'm less Floridian and more human soup. Oh, don't miss the heat. Oh, Irina Posner says Fishman was a legendary fake Scientologist. He was an actual felon, but he read about Scientology a lot and also knew some real Jewish Scientologists, and he spoke the lingo. Oh, interesting. The plot thickens even more. Wow. That is crazy. Brandon, I would love to see you, Aaron, and a few others together, Natalie, and be protesting Scientology. We protested in Clearwater when we were together last year. And I protested in Hawaii, Chicago, Minneapolis, Clearwater, not LA yet, though. And I really want to. I wish there was a Scientology org on the Big Island where we're going, because we would totally hit up the org, but it's not. It's on another island. Tilty Bird says, I had a dream about seeing Travolta's boat docked at the harbor of my island and using his dance from Pulp Fiction to get him out of the cult. Oh, that's such a great dream, Tilty. I love that. Irina says, I think the problem with Travolta's sex life is that he often went after his employees, hired helps, servants, and so on. Basically, people he had power over. That might not be okay in many cases. I agree. And that's what I mean, Irina. There could be things, I'm speculating. I'm not saying that there is, I'm speculating. It could be an explanation for why Travolta doesn't leave. It's not just about it coming out that, he prefers the company of gentlemen, but something else. Other parts of it. And I agree, because we've heard a lot of tabloid stories too about him coming on a massage therapist, and that's inappropriate. Brandon says, I have mixed feelings about John Travolta being gay, but this time in age, you never know with people. I think he is. I'm speculating. Yeah, Lisa Kelson, the new video is on Tommy G's channel. No way, Arkansas Flamingo. If your nose is itching, it means someone is coming to see you. Interesting. It's only on the outside, not on the inside, just on the outside. It's been itching. Well, I love that. Hopefully it's somebody that I want to see. It's not like there's some giant list of people that Natalie doesn't want to see. It's not giant. It's short. Very, 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 very short. Right now, there's one person on it. Wait, is that pink button one of those buttons made for talking dogs to press with their paws? I don't, maybe, but it's my Aloha button. So when I get a super chat or there's an anniversary for a member, I'll whip it out. Haggis Basher, that Tommy G documentary has almost 800,000 views in less than 24 hours. That is the kind of visibility needed. I agree. That's amazing. Jenna was in that video. She did amazing, right? Aaron, who else did they talk to? They talked to Scientology Audit Streets LA. Fingy says there are so many big channels spreading awareness now. I'm loving the trend on TikTok. True. Yes. I need to go in and look at more of those and share some of those. I do. Tilty Bird says some of the older articles and information are even more relevant today as they can tie things together in the greater scheme that we have more insight into now. Exactly. And that's what I was thinking. And if you didn't catch my video yesterday about Operation Snow White, check it out because I go over Scientology's versions of events and then the actual version of events. And there's a lot of information in there that I think would be very helpful in understanding Scientology today and predicting their behavior. Hey, Magnus. That's right, Queen of Karma. If Scientology went to your parents, my parents would be like, good. I hope she takes down your whole church. I love it. Yeah, that's right, Fingy. They recently tried to stalk and follow her. It's like, good. You think you're going to intimidate her because of that? It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. There's really nothing they can do. People are not afraid of Scientology like they used to be. That includes journalists, lawyers, and everybody else. Everybody knows Scientology. Everybody knows. We are no longer afraid. Let's see. Oh, yeah, they also slash tires. I had my tires slashed in 1 week, the same tire, after I left Scientology and spoke about it. After a hang-up call from Scientology, too. I went outside and boom, my tire was slashed. Got it fixed. Same tire, brand new tire put on, same tire, slashed the same way. At that point, the tire people were like, I think someone's slashing your tires. I'm like, yeah, they are. But the thing is, it doesn't get the result that it used to get. There was a time where that would intimidate people and they would stop. And for some it does, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to tap out when it comes to exposing Scientology, do it. You got to put yourself first. You have to put yourself first, especially if you're a former member of this cult. As passionate as I am about sharing the truth about Scientology and why it's a human trafficking, family destroying cult, even I try to make sure that, if I need to step away and take some time, that I do, because, it's a lot of ick and talking about it. The things that I cover, I feel like it's easier for me to talk about it because I'm not only talking about my own story, and that would be a lot more difficult, I believe. But I think we got to know all of these things that happened before. And just like when John Atack comes on, we're hearing a lot more about the truth about Scientology back in the day. Travolta loves Clearwater. Aaron sees him there all the time. I know, isn't it great at the Friday night protest? Yes, Scientology up north. Total win for Tommy G. That was fantastic. Mock says that's so absurd with the parents. My dad would have just checked in if I spent enough time in bars to aside from the activism. Oh, I'm telling you. Oh, Serge. Yes, yes. Thank you. Serge Del Mar was in the documentary and I started crying. He always makes me emotional. I get it, Fingy. That's right. Serge did an amazing job as well. It is the Iron Cheek. It is nice to not be in a cult. I love it. I really do. Oh, no way, Haggis Basher. Jason, a.k.a. William, even shows up in Clearwater as security at Flag. They must have shipped him out there from Blue. Ooh, yes. Wonder why. Wonder why. We may never know. Scientology up north, we can learn from what was done in the past and not repeat the same mistakes. Exactly. And when it comes to live streaming or protesting Scientology, always make sure that you understand the laws in your area. So don't give them an inch because they're going to find a reason. Scientology will find a reason. They're watching everything that you do when you're out there and they're looking for a reason to, tie you up in the courts. But just don't give it to them. And most people do a great job at not taking the bait because they will try to bull bait you. They will try to get a reaction out of you. Don't give it to them. Just really don't. So that's what I got for you on this, you guys. I'm going to link this down below so you can see the whole article. Do me a solid, hit that like, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But most importantly, I hope today you guys all get out and you have an amazing cult free day.